570 KVI, America's first conservative talk station. It's time for a common sense current in a sea of insanity.
Are you ready?
This is the Ari Hoffman Show.
Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless. Streaming at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, all the fun with the World Cup. Did President Trump say he's sending the feds to Seattle to make sure it's ready to go for the games? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
According to the Department of Homeland Security, border crossings are once again at record lows for November. President Trump and the people working under him, like Kristi Noem, have effectively sealed the U.S. border, made sure that we can control and know who's coming and going. However, when you have a population of 330, 350 million people here in the U.S., we still don't know who's in our borders. And more often than not, we're starting to find these people who shouldn't be within our borders because of bad things that happen. Yesterday, towards the end of the show, we got a text, and I love KVI Nation because we get the best tips from our listeners, the people who see us on streaming, the people who listen to the podcasts. We get the absolute best tips. Somebody texted into the show and said, Ari, did you hear that the guy who's responsible for this truck accident out in Lacey didn't have a driver's license, a CDL, didn't have a commercial driver's license, and he got arrested? I said, oh, that puts up all the radars. Now, a little peek behind the curtain of how the show works. I'm always reading. People say, Ari, how much prep time do you need for the show? And basically, my rule is an hour of prep for an hour of content. But I'm always reading. And you should see these spreadsheets I have with stories. A lot of them don't get done because there's just too much content for 3 hours. I could do 12 hours a day and not get to it. And there's some stuff that I put in my own little folder, which I say, I need to do more research on this later. So because it was, 5:15, 5:30 when we got that text yesterday, I said, this is something we need to check out tonight. I need to see what's going on. Earlier in the day, when I heard there was this truck accident, nowadays, whenever I hear there's a truck accident, automatically I reach out to the Washington State Patrol. I think they're getting a little sick of me at this point. I reached out to the Washington State Patrol and said, can you send me the driver's information? Can you send me the accident report? Can you send me everything? So I did that. And I'm waiting for the stuff to come back. But then details start trickling in. The funniest thing is we share studio space with our sister station, Northwest News Radio. And they're actually working on the story. They didn't have all the details, but I'm hearing more and more and more. Guy didn't have a CDL. Guy didn't have a medical card. Guy didn't have any of the paperwork you need to be hauling an auto carrier. You know, those big trucks with all the cars on them? Then we find out more and more. So I start going down the rabbit hole. And I say, wait a minute. If this guy was arrested, he's going to be in the Thurston County jail system. If he was booked into the jail system, he's going to be there. What do you know? Found the person who was booked for the misdemeanor, the gross misdemeanor, Juan Hernandez Santos, aged 40. Now, because it's Washington State, there's not a lot of details on where this person came from. But I'd like to thank some of my friends in the media. Some of my friends in the media know their networks are never going to say illegal alien. They're never going to say that stuff, so they send it to me. So I got some good tips that way. So found out this guy is from Mexico. This guy also is working for a truck company out of California. This guy didn't have a CDL to be issued illegally from California or Washington or Oregon or Pennsylvania or any of those places. But he was driving a massive truck with a fully loaded auto carrier behind him, plowed into a school bus. Luckily, there were no children on it, and caused a 6-vehicle pileup on I-5 in Lacey. People could have been killed. According to the Washington State Patrol, the accident was caused because he was speeding in the rain. I had a trucker reach out to me yesterday and said, Ari, do you know what a hot shot is? I did not know that. That sounds like a cool title. A hot shot in the trucking world, as I'm told, I'm getting this education from other people, is somebody who goes a gajillion miles an hour and is basically going to the bathroom in the soda cans they were drinking on the way, and they don't stop. They just get where they're going as fast as possible. I don't know that this person was, but they were telling me that a lot of the hotshots in the industry are illegals who are just trying to get from here to there. Then there's people who aren't illegals doing the same thing. But this was a term I hadn't heard before. You had 4 people transported to the hospital with injuries. Do you know what it takes to get injured in a car accident these days? I'm shocked nobody was killed when you talk about a giant semi-truck going at God knows how fast he was going in the rain yesterday. Oh, and by the way, this is something for some reason they don't teach in driver's ed anymore. My daughter's teaching driver's ed. You know when you're getting the early rains of the season, and maybe it's all gone by now because it's December and we already had a very rainy November. But you know when you first get the first rains of the season, you know why there's so many accidents? When it's been dry for a while, you got the oils and all the other garbage on the road that hasn't been washed away. So now you're slipping and sliding on that with the water because oil and water don't mix. And that's something I don't think they teach in driver's ed anymore. You got to be careful. You got to slow down with those first rains of the year. I joke that people in Seattle don't know how to drive. No, it's all the transplants that came here from California that don't know what rain is probably what's causing this problem. I'm from New York. We know what weather is. We get a lot of weather there. We get snow, which is why I kind of laugh at the snow situation that happens around here. That I make fun of, right?
I've lived here my entire life, Ari. I've driven in no other part of the country, and I could say we don't know how to drive.
Oh, there's that, too.
In any conditions. It's like, it's wet. Oh, no, I'm slipping around. In the snow. Oh, no, I'm slipping around. In the sunshine. Oh, God, I can't see. Don't even get me started about hitting your brakes on the freeway. It's like, oh, no, there's a curve coming 4 miles from now. I must stop on my brakes.
I was trying to be nice, but I'll give you that one.
That's why I'm saying
I was trying to be nice.
You can't say that, transplant. I can say that, though.
You know what I think it is? Mike, I've said this before. When you're driving on the freeway here in Seattle, for some reason, everybody's going the same speed as if like a common mission. And then there's always one lunatic, Ari Hoffman, who's weaving in and out of everybody. But then there's always the 1 or 2 idiots that are stopping in the middle of the freeway, like you're talking about. So I think the problem is everybody here is united in their little mission together. And then one schmuck comes along and screws up the whole system. That's what I think happens here. It's because everybody's on the same page. Yeah, you know what the Seattle freeze is? When that one schmuck causes the accident and now everybody's stuck in traffic behind him. That's what the Seattle freeze is. Anyway, getting back to illegal immigrants, who they don't know how to drive here either, apparently. This guy causes this massive accident. Did you see reported in any local media outlet that this guy was an illegal alien? Any of them?
No.
A single one of them? Yes?
No.
No, not a single one. We're the only ones.
How about no?
I think that's actually why my video went viral. So what happened was Washington State Patrol posted a video of a traffic camera of the accident. I took the video, and then I wrote all the details on social media about what actually happened. Now, Washington State Patrol was actually very forthcoming with a lot of the information. They just stopped shy of saying illegal alien. They said, from Mexico. Like that, we had all the details we needed. Washington State Patrol did a pretty decent job with this. But what happens is I posted that thing at 11:30 last night. Once I had all the information, things don't go viral at 11:30 at night. I wake up this morning, it had 5,000 retweets or whatever else it had going on because it is yet another example of the CDL madness that's happening across the country.
Another one.
Let's talk for a sec about kind of like the news cycle, because like this is something that happened to us in real time. And again, shout out to the person that texted it in and put it back on our radar, because I saw this story early in the morning and I'm just like, ooh, car crash.
Right.
You know, I didn't really think much of it. And it wasn't until like 4:30 in the afternoon, we're like halfway through our show. There was nothing there to indicate for me to go back and look at it until all of those details kind of come out. So it's interesting just kind of like how the news cycle goes and how information is disseminated and discovered. But like you're saying, Ari, it's
another one.
And not unlike our illegal hot dog vendor friends, it's like it seems like there's always more nuance and new chapters to an ongoing story.
Right. We'll take this one for a minute. First, it was there's an accident. Okay, accidents happen. Then it was there's a school bus. So for me, for my workload, what I had was there's an accident. Okay, I'm ignoring it. Then there was it's an accident with a truck. Okay, save for later. Then it's an accident with a school bus. Oh, that just got bumped up on my priority list. Then it's the driver was arrested. Then it's the driver didn't have a license. Okay, I need to research this the second I'm off air. Mike knows I hung around last night a little bit longer than I normally do because I was busy digging up the stuff on this because I want to get the information as soon as possible. Guys, we have become ground zero for this stuff in the U.S. Remember Harjinder Singh, who crossed the border illegally in 2018 and somehow got a Washington and California CDL. He got it here in Washington, leveraged it for another one in California, despite not being able to speak English and failing the required test, including the air brake check. That guy was the one who allegedly, even though there's video of it, did the giant U-turn on a Florida freeway, and an SUV plows right into the car because he did an illegal U-turn. Killed 3 people, allegedly, even though there's video of it. We have had story after story after story of this, and it's California, Oregon, and Washington every time. Now, California is where this company is based, which this guy is working for. I hope the feds are raiding it right now. By the way, yes, I did send all this information to the feds. I hope they are raiding it right now. But you know what they're going to find? They're not going to find what you think. I worked in Georgetown for years, and those of you who live in the Seattle area, you know that Georgetown is the industrial area. It's where the Rainier Brewery is. It's where all the truckers hang out. Well, I've said multiple stories about the fact that my business was back-to-back with multiple trucking companies. You know what they all had on their doors? LLC numbers. They all had different companies, which is weird because you think if they're all at this trucking depot, shouldn't they all be the same company? No. A lot of these guys are their independent LLCs. So when you go to hold somebody responsible for what happened, it's just a slip of paper. It's just an LLC. There's nobody to sue. There's nobody to punish. There's nobody to get rid of. Oh, and a lot of these guys are Somalians, by the way, in the community here, so I wonder how deep that mess goes, given what we're learning about Minnesota. But there's nobody to hold accountable. There's nobody to hold responsible. Later today, we got Lars Larson coming up, and we're actually going to talk about this because Lars has some unique insights regarding this because he's been talking to people in the industry because I say make an example out of all these owners. Perp walk all of them. Say, you hired this guy. But you may not be able to because they could say, no, he's his own LLC. There are many ways they can scoot around this. And I think you need reforms in the entire system. But it's issue after issue. We found in Minneapolis, they're also issuing fraudulent CDLs. We found Skyline CDL, the franchise school that was set up and down the West Coast, which was issuing hundreds, if not thousands, of these permits. And it seems like every day there's another one of these accidents every single day. Now when the feds say we want to do something about it, I notice that Gavin Newsom's complying. Gavin Newsom's the one who suspended 15,000 CDLs, not because of the federal government, he says, but we have questions we need to look into. Are you kidding me with this? We don't know what ticking time bombs are in our country. And the scariest thing, and this is just like the Joker in The Dark Knight, right? When everything goes according to plan, you assume there's going to be accidents on the freeway. You don't assume it's going to be an illegal alien who didn't have a driver's license who's causing those accidents on the freeway. You assume the trucker next to you is trained, is licensed. Here, let's do this differently. What if they did this with pilots? What if they did this with pilots? And you know what? First it would be, well, there's a little sightseeing airplane. Right? Then it would be some guy in a little Cessna. Then it would be, wait a minute, a guy got a commercial license to fly a Boeing 737 and then cratered it because he couldn't speak English or didn't. We know that can't happen because of the rules and regulations. But what if they said, hey, the illegal alien wants to be a pilot. Let's make him a pilot. We know that some of these truckers we found were terrorists. We don't know how deep this rabbit hole goes, but it could be so much worse. We say, oh, they just wanted jobs. Oh, they just came here for a better life. Okay, then follow the rules. But why would you expect somebody who broke the rules the first time to continue following your rules? Whether it's for a driver's license or anything else. You know what this is like? Grade inflation. So with the grades, you say, oh, well, we're not teaching you enough, so you can't pass that test, or it was COVID, so you missed out on a lot of school, so it's just pass-fail. Or you know what? It's if you pass, you get an A. That doesn't show mastery of the system. Would you want a doctor operating on you who did medical school on pass-fail? I want to walk into the doctor's office and I want to see where they went to medical school. And back in the day, I wanted it to be the Ivy League. Now I really don't. But I walk in there and I want to see that they went to the best medical school, or I don't want them operating on me. I don't want them treating me. We have no idea who's doing this. And I know that anytime I bring up the trucker thing, our phone lines blow up because this upsets the truckers. They're very proud of what they do. And this is making them all look bad. Because now everybody's going to assume that every accident wasn't an illegal alien. Accidents happen, but how many of them didn't have to? This guy was speeding in the rain, didn't have a CDL, didn't have a medical card, didn't have any of the necessary permits, and some company trusted him to move their cars. Let's say, for sake of argument, it was Chevy. Let's just say it was Chevy, okay? We don't know which car company it was. Let's say it was Chevy. They contract with some company. Hey, we got to move these cars from the factory to the dealership. Can you move them for us? So Chevy subcontracts it out and doesn't know who's actually the driver on the thing. We need serious reforms in our transportation sector. Because I know that anytime I'm driving on a freeway, you guys tell me if you do the same thing. Text us at 206-421-5757. These days, when I see a truck, I get away from it as far as possible. It used to be when I saw a U-Haul or a Penske or any of the rental trucks, I got away from those as soon as possible. Because the person driving those, you don't know if they actually know how to drive a truck, or they're just somebody who's moving their buddy's furniture and got the biggest truck they could at the least price they could find, at the lowest price. Now, whenever I see a semi-truck, I am getting the hell out of Dodge as fast as possible. Because I don't know who's driving those suckers. I just don't. And I know for our very proud truckers who love doing their job, who are proud of their work, they don't like this either. Because also they did everything by the rules. It's like our legal immigrants who get mad anytime I suggest some form of some way to give the ones who came here but didn't commit any crimes citizenship, because the legal immigrants did everything right. And this makes them look bad, which is why Biden lost the Hispanic vote in 2024. Why are the Democrats continuing to do this? Imagine if somebody had been killed. God forbid, God forbid, God forbid. Imagine if somebody had been killed in this accident. Then, can you actually even sue the politicians who put these ridiculous policies into place? The answer is no. I wonder if over the weekend we're going to see the same kind of response from this accident we saw in Florida. I think the only reason you haven't seen it yet is because nobody died. What a horrible bar that we have to hit these days. But the fact that this video is going viral for this story of another illegal alien driving a truck illegally. How many more are out there? How many more truckers are out there? How dangerous are our roadways? Something we expect to work. Something we need to work. You're worried about supply chain issues? What if you find out how many of these CDLs were issued illegally? We already know it's tens of thousands. Tens of thousands, and now we don't have the drivers for them. This is a multi-level problem. We don't know how bad it gets. You want to know the nightmare scenario? Let me give you the nightmare scenario. It's the one from The Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson, where a terrorist, and we've had this happen before, gets a CDL from Washington, California, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and then they load up a semi-truck with whatever Al-Qaeda or ISIS or whoever wants it loaded with. And then they drive it into a building, or they drive it onto a bridge, or they drive it into a sporting arena. And then we say, we warned you. Please God, please God, please God, that doesn't happen. We don't want it to happen. But I guarantee you, if God forbid it does happen, the politician who authorized a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, authorized giving driver's licenses and CDLs to illegal aliens will not be held accountable. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, could President Trump say, hey, we're going to send in the feds to clean up those cities for the World Cup? And does that mean they're coming to Seattle? We'll discuss. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Is coming your way. This is the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
So today in Washington, D.C., at the newly renovated and operated Kennedy Center, President Trump had all the people from FIFA, all the soccer people there, and they're deciding through raffle, through lottery, who's going to be playing each other in the World Cup. I do not pretend to understand any of this because I don't do the soccer. So I'm not going to bash soccer. I assume we're going to get a whole bunch of money into the U.S. because of having the World Cup here. Wonderful, fantastic. But all I know from this thing is it looked like a great event. President Trump got an award that FIFA has created about being a peacemaker because of the amount of peace deals he's done. Plus, they always do something for the host country, for the leader of the host country. You're going to see awards for the cities. Just watch. You're going to see Katie Wilson up there getting an award. This is going to be bipartisan. These FIFA people, they know how to kiss butt. We saw the Village people on stage again. I'm really mad I didn't get to see Trump dancing with the Village people this time. So for me, it wasn't their best performance. May have been the second best because that was really the best one when you had Trump dancing next to the Indian. Are we allowed to call him an Indian? Can we call him a Native American? Anywho, that was one of the best parts. So what happens while President Trump is talking to the media? He got asked by a reporter, hey, Mr. President, you've mentioned before you might move the World Cup out of crime-ridden cities. You still going to do that?
You've had some concerns about crime in American cities, some of the cities that'll be hosting. Have they remedied that for you, or are you still considering maybe asking FIFA to move some of those cities?
No, I don't want to do that, but I will tell you if they do have a problem, by the time we get there, we'll take care of that problem. We can solve that problem. I've proven that in D.C. and everywhere else we went, so we'll take care of that very easily. So if they have a problem, hopefully they'll let us know that, and we will solve any problem.
If you got a problem, he'll solve it. I think what the administration realized, I think what President Trump realized, is it's a lot easier to go in and clean up a city that's already been preparing for the World Cup than to move it to a city that's not prepared for the World Cup, that hasn't been doing all the preparations. Look, it takes time to order things. Plus, also, you're going to really tick off a whole bunch of cities if you start moving the World Cup. Now that he has the authority to send in the troops to other cities, question is Katie Wilson going to try her best to block him? Is Gourmet Zahale going to try his best to block him? Is Bob Ferguson going to try his best to block him? I could see that happening. Do you think things in Seattle are getting better? I keep seeing all these reports. Crime is down in King County. Crime is down in King County. And yet I see all this news about crime more often than I was before. Mike, I would say there was a little bit of a time there. It's not like crime went away, but the media wasn't focusing on the crime as much. The media was focusing more on human interest pieces. It seems like the media might have realized nobody wants to read human interest pieces and give us the blood and guts and gore, or is it that there's more blood and guts and gore happening? This story, this sounds like one we've done before. Nope, it is brand new. According to Como News, a rash of destructive burglaries in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood has several businesses fed up. The Seattle Police Department's crime dashboard as of December 4th shows 11 reports of break-ins and burglaries on Capitol Hill over a 7-day period, and 30 reports for the entire East Precinct that also includes the Central area, First Hill, Judkins Park, Madison Park, Montlake, and the Upper Pike Pine neighborhood. Some of the crimes happened earlier, but they are only now being reported. Time out. Why are they only now being reported? Is it you want to say crime was down, so you told people not to report them? Is it people finally got around to reporting them? Why are they only now being reported? I have questions. But whatever the case is, now that they're finally being reported, is the way I would say this. Many workers did not want to talk on camera, but told Como News that they feel frustrated and at times helpless. Security footage captures a burglar making a beeline for the Oxburger restaurant's cash door, getting in and out the busted front window in seconds. The popular restaurant off Madison and 16th is using insurance to pay for a new entrance. Whoa, you're not using Bruce Harrell's fix your window money? Or have you already maxed that out because your business has been hit so many times? Wait a second. Capitol Hill. How many stories have we done where crime has persisted in Capitol Hill since the autonomous zone? Guys, you know it's been 5 years since the autonomous zone. Mike, I still can't believe it. It went by in a flash. That feels like it happened last summer. It's been 5 years, half a decade, and the neighborhood still hasn't recovered from saying, let's close down a police precinct and abandon the neighborhood and just let the community police the thing. Well done. And I got to say, for a lot of these businesses, I don't feel any pity for them. There's businesses that were trapped there, and that's where they've always been. But there's businesses like Molly Moon's Ice Cream, which is the cop-hating ice cream joint that was supporting the autonomous zone, that banned police officers from their locations. And then they tried to sue the city for the autonomous zone. In that case, I wanted the city to lose, but I also wanted Molly Moon's to lose. I think the case actually got thrown out recently. I have to do some checking into that. I believe it did get thrown out, which I'm like, great. That case never should have gone. You guys supported the autonomous zone, and now you're saying you want to sue over the autonomous zone? Spare me. Taped to the front door of Conan Steiner General Store on 19th and Mercer is a plea to ward off potential burglars. The sign reads, ATM has been emptied. Cameras have been updated. Please, please don't rob us. Guys, I know that's kind of like a joke, haha, funny, but this is the kind of stuff we used to see in San Francisco. Do you know what San Francisco snow is? San Francisco doesn't get snow. Do you know what San Francisco snow is? It's the glass you find when your window's been shattered on your car. I've been calling it Seattle snow for a while now, but we actually do get snow from time to time here. Are you surprised by any of this? A half mile away on the 500 block of Broadway East, La Coquina has boarded up a window and set up chicken wire for added security. The general manager off camera said 2 people broke in on November 23rd using rocks and restaurant tables and got away with arms full of liquor bottles. He's getting $800 from the city for the storefront repair fund and hopes to avoid becoming a repeat target. Mike, you and I enjoy a good drink every now and again. If somebody stole the alcohol from your bar, it's going to be a lot more than $800 just to replace that. Never mind the window. This is exactly what I've been talking about. The windows are $5,000 to $10,000 a piece. And then you got to replace whatever got broken inside the store, too. I got to say, all this that's happening around here, for Seattle businesses to qualify for the grants, the damage had to have happened after July 24th. And the grants do not cover graffiti or lost or stolen property. They just cover the glass and only up to 3 incidents per business. That's it. Only 3 incidents. You think that's going to be helpful at all? You're not dealing with the real problem. Remember when Ann Davidson first got elected and she revealed this report that the majority of crimes in our area were being done by the same 100 prolific offenders. How come we never heard what happened to all those prolific offenders? Did we prosecute them more? Did we keep them in jail? Did they not get prosecuted? Or was it just the same revolving system? As I've said many, many times, whoever ran Ann Davidson's campaign should never work in politics ever, ever again unless they were working for the other person against Ann, because then they did their job beautifully. But whoever is working for Ann Davidson in PR and for her campaign should never work again. I want to know what happened to all those prolific offenders. You literally listed them by name. You gave out an entire report of these prolific offenders who are responsible for all this. What happened to them? If they were all arrested, great. Who are this new crop that are creating all the problems? It is crime after crime after crime around here. On Saturday night, I was sitting at home, and I saw on the news that there was a high-speed pursuit involving a black Dodge Charger. I'm like, not me. It's not me. And it's not the Belltown Hellcat, but it is in South Seattle, and it is going out to South Center, my usual spots. So what's going on here? We had them. They opened fire on police officers. Then we found out it wasn't a Dodge Charger. It was a Durango that they had stolen. Court records reveal new details, according to Como News, linking a teen accused of being involved in a shooting at Seattle police officers over the weekend to multiple crimes in Pierce and King County. The 16-year-old boy was arrested, along with 3 teenage girls, ages 15 through 17, Saturday night after leading police on a chase down I-5 into Tequila. According to court records, 2 of the 4 teens arrested have a prior criminal history, including a 15-year-old girl for robbery in Snohomish County, a 16-year-old boy who has priors for robbery, being involved in a prison riot, and a murder in Tacoma. Now, why is this person out of jail? Oh, it's not their fault they grew up with the color of their skin. Oh, it's not their fault they grew up poor or whatever else it is. But because of the suicidal empathy, where we continue releasing prolific offenders, I don't care how young they are, there is such a thing as a bad seed. But murder? They were in for murder, and you released this person. I don't care how young they are. Somebody else doesn't get a life because of them. Why do they get a life out on the streets?
Well, Ari, I am now retroactively more terrified than my wife and I were on Saturday. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this week. The end of this story happened basically in my backyard.
You know, it's funny. I've been meaning to talk about this story all week, and I keep forgetting to every day or something else comes up. And I'm thinking to myself, as I was watching this unfold, I'm like, didn't this happen in SeaTac? I should really ask Mike about it. Yeah. Because it started in my neck of the woods and ended in yours.
Exactly. So basically, the Durango takes the exit to go to my house.
That's horrifying.
So and Ari, you've been to my place. There's a school and some play fields.
Sure.
Every single police officer and sheriff in the entire county, it would seem, descended into my neighborhood. I had 3 cruisers at the end of my cul-de-sac. And at one point, like, I just see the flashing lights. I'm like, what is going on there? I go to open the front door. Sir, go back in your house and lock your door.
Oh, it was that bad?
Yeah, I mean, in my driveway, Ari.
That's horrifying.
Terrifying.
Mike. So I got to send you, don't let me forget today. I got to send you the court documents on this, which I got from King County. That's where I'm pulling a lot of this information from. I didn't realize how bad it was.
Yeah, so meanwhile, me and my wife are like both on our phones separately checking like our local neighborhood Facebook groups, like next door and all that. And of course, there's a lot of buzz and news is coming out, more slowly. It's like, oh man, maybe there's a guy on the run. Oh, it looks like they arrested some kids. Fragmented information when things are happening. But meanwhile, there are a dozen sheriffs walking through the play fields in my backyard with flashlights.
That's crazy.
Looking for somebody. And now hearing these details to know that dude was on the run in my neighborhood is, again, as I started, retroactively more terrifying than it already was. Because when my wife and I went to bed, it was just like, well, they're either going to find him or they aren't. And we will probably never know how this ends up being.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's even worse than I got into. I barely scratched the surface. This whole chase started because they opened fire on police officers. And then you find out it's a 16-year-old murderer who has no compunction about opening fire on police officers. I'll definitely send you those documents. They're really, really bad. Make sure you have a bourbon with your wife or something tonight when you guys are reading these. I'm just going to tell you that. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Slimy and corrupt. Yeah, sounds like DC. Time to wade into the swamp with the Ari Hoffman Show on 570 KVI.
As more and more is being uncovered about the fraud in the Somalian community in Minneapolis, Minnesota, we know that it's Ilhan Omar's district. Yesterday, the Daily Wire had a whole expose out where they did the research and they found out how many of these people were tied to Ilhan Omar. It looks like it's a lot worse than that, though, my friends. The New York Post has a new article out, and this, basically the headline is just, what did she know, when did she know it, and it's from Chadwick Moore. U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar's close ties to the $1 billion welfare scam in her Minnesota congressional district are being uncovered. Omar held parties at one of the key restaurants named in the fraud, knew one of its now convicted owners, and one of her own staffers has been convicted, both for stealing millions. Now, let's give benefit of the doubt, even though she doesn't deserve it at all. There was a guy who donated to my campaign when I was running for office, Mike, and we don't do background checks on everybody, and the lefty psychos go, oh, he's a convicted this, he's a convicted that, and we returned the money. Took 2 seconds, right? It was one guy, one time, immediately, had no idea who it was. Check came in. I think it was 24 hours. I think we had the money for 24 hours. I get how these things happen in politics. You're getting all these donations in. You don't necessarily check everyone that comes in. As long as it complies with the PDC filing, that's all you care about. Do you have their address? Do you have their employer? Okay. One of my donations had that problem with it, right? And then what about this? Hey, somebody who donated a lot of money to your campaign. You know, I'd really like for my nephew, brother, sister, you know, you've become kind of close. They volunteered on your campaign. Can they come work for you? I understand how those things can happen in politics. I'm not saying they should. I understand it. So for those of you who say, maybe it's that, I got to tell you, my friends, it's a whole lot worse than that. It's a whole lot worse than that. Omar even introduced a bill that led to the $250 million in fraud. yet she claims to have been completely unaware of it. Representative Omar knew who these people were. People she personally knew were making tens of millions of dollars on this program, claimed Bill Glann, who's a policy fellow with the Minnesota-based Center of the American Experiment, he told the New York Post. She's been inside the Safari facility on numerous occasions and couldn't put two and two together. Either she's terminally naive or knew and didn't care. What is the Safari facility? These are the guys who claim they were giving out millions of meals to children. If you go into a restaurant and you hear they're giving out millions of meals, wouldn't you see some evidence of it? Trucks coming and going. Millions is a lot of meals. You see trucks coming and going. You see huge production facilities. None of that was there. Or here's a better one for you, Mike. Let's say you're a politician and somebody's giving out millions of meals. Don't you want to go down there and help on Thanksgiving or Christmas, get the photo shoots in and show how you're being a good person? Or did you just not care because you knew what was actually going on? Around $250 million was handed out by the Minnesota government to provide meals to school children during the pandemic from 2020 onward. Instead, it was pocketed by corrupt business owners, including Salim Ahmed Said. He's the co-owner of the Safari restaurant where Omar held her 2018 Congressional Victory Party. You know, normally those are nicer places, right, that you hold these kind of parties at for high-end donors. Well, now we know where the money was coming from. Said was found guilty in August of stealing over $12 million for serving 3.9 million phantom meals. They never existed. He blew much of the money on a $2 million Minneapolis mansion and $9,000 a month shopping habit at Nordstrom's. Okay, I've been to Nordstrom's. I go to the rack, clearly, right? But how do you blow $9,000 a month at Nordstrom's? And you're a dude. Omar has not been directly linked to the scandal, according to prosecutorial documents. Her office did not respond to a request for comment from the New York Post. The meals were made possible by the 2020 Meals Act, which was introduced by Omar and passed with bipartisan support. Most of the money in Minneapolis was funneled through the now defunct nonprofit Feeding Our Future. It allowed both nonprofits and for-profit businesses to be reimbursed with taxpayer money for feeding kids by dramatically loosening oversight, waiving site inspections, and allowing bulk take-home food with almost no verification. As the scam was going on in 2020, Omar appeared on video at Minneapolis' Safari restaurant to praise the program. Stop. Right there, she's guilty, in my opinion. I'm going to tell you why. If you go for one of these things, and I said you do it for the photo op, you're praising the program, where's the program? Mike, I got to go look for this video. If she's just doing an interview with the news in front of the Safari place and there's no food being made in the background, she knew she was in on it. That's my theory. Of course, I kind of want her to be guilty, but that's my theory. Otherwise, she'd be there helping them package the meals and taking photo ops with the volunteers and loading them into trucks. The Congresswoman later told the news the alleged fraud scheme orchestrated by Feed Our Future is reprehensible. Using the guise of feeding children to funnel millions of dollars toward extravagant expenses is abhorrent, and anyone who participated in the scheme must be held accountable. Her spokesman also said she had no knowledge whatsoever. I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all. For a scam this big, officials had to be involved. You're the one who sponsored the program. And by the way, there's this narrative coming out there of people who are trying to defend the fraud. And by the way, if you bring this up, everybody calls you racist. Everybody calls you racist if you bring this up. So local media says Somali Minnesotans generate at least $500 million in income annually and pay about $67 million in state and local taxes. Wait a second. There's 80,000 Somalians in Minnesota. If they contribute only $67 million in state and local taxes, that means each of them on average pay $800. Mike, how much do you pay in taxes per year? I assume it's more than $800. Just your sales tax on action figures is probably more than $800. Your gas tax, never mind property taxes and everything else we pay tax on, they're each paying $800,000. So basically what that means is that Maine Minnesotans pay anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 in state and local taxes a year, which means Somalians are contributing more than 10 times less. to say nothing about the fraud they took, which was $250 million. So you're saying you contributed $67 million, but you took $250 million in fraud. Wow. Wow. You guys did it. Fantastic. You really contributed to the economy in Minnesota.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
Exactly right. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Netflix is buying Warner Brothers. Sort of. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
KVI wants to make sure you're never canceled. It's time for the Woke Report. So wake me up when it's all over. It's the Ari Hoffman Show.
CNN anchor Jake Tapper falsely told his audience that the suspect in the D.C. pipe bombing was white yesterday. Give a listen.
Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion. CNN observed local and federal law enforcement outside his home in Woodbridge, Virginia this morning.
Yeah, he's a black man. Not that that really matters, but to CNN it does. Does CNN ever say when it's a black man? Does CNN ever say when it's a Hispanic man? Does CNN ever? No, it's just a Washington man, right? When it's illegal alien. That's the only
Please,
time.
a sweet cherub-faced Washington man.
That's
he may
what
be
it
hungry.
is. Right, exactly. But they were so eager to say it wasn't a person of color. They were so eager to say that, right? That was the thing. They flat out lied. I noticed during the entire segment, they didn't put up a picture of the guy, and they had the pictures by then. Everybody who you're seeing with that image, it's superimposed over the news there. But that's CNN, right? Don't want to look like we're racists for saying this guy happens to be black who committed this crime. Unbelievable, crazy stuff. Now, people are worried if Warner Brothers is going to go woke because they are getting bought, if the deal goes through and if it's approved by regulators, by Netflix for $82.7 billion. Now, we all know that Netflix has woke garbage on their platform. They also have action garbage, which I kind of enjoy. They have comedy garbage, which I enjoy. Netflix, lots of garbage. Lots and lots. Look, there is a show I watch, Rust Masters, from Rust to, Car Masters, whatever it is, from Rust to Riches. It's a car show. I love this stupid show. It is garbage. It is absolute garbage. I love that stupid show. I can't even tell you the name of it, but I like that show. Car Masters from Rust to Riches. Love that show. Very stupid. Anyway, they've got garbage for everybody. So people say, is Warner Brothers going to go woke? Well, if Batman and Robin's relationship changes, then you know they went too woke, right? But my real question here about this is, does it mean our movies get worse? Do we just make everything for streaming now and occasionally it gets thrown up on the big screen? I do find it entertaining, though, that years ago, somebody had a side-by-side of this on social media, where they had whoever was the president of Warner Brothers at the time saying Netflix isn't going to go anywhere. And now they're buying. It's like when Blockbuster was considering buying Netflix and that deal fell through, and now there's no Blockbuster anymore. Do you realize Blockbuster could have owned Warner Brothers had they bought that and the stars had aligned a certain way? That would be pretty entertaining. Do you really care about this? I'm kind of curious what you think. 206-421-5757 for text today. But Mike, you probably have some thoughts on this. I just worry our movies are going to be trash.
Yeah, and unfortunately that is kind of where I'm sitting, because Netflix has been an advocate for, obviously, home video exhibition. That's basically the forefront of their model. Like, they will choose to put out movies theatrically for awards consideration, because like to be considered for awards you have to have a certain window of theatrical exhibition. But the president of Netflix has said multiple times that he's an advocate for narrowing the theatrical window even more, and that home video is very much the future. And through the entirety of the time of the Ari Hoffman Show and the time that you and I have spent together, and we've had a lot of conversations about movies, and I still keep thinking I want to do that Matt Walsh-style documentary, What Is Even a Movie Anymore? I think this is the latest step of lowering barriers of content. Like, you know, what's the difference between television and movies and social media and YouTube and TikTok and Rumble and all this other stuff? It's I think even in the bullpen, I've called it gray, colorless, flavorless goop. Right. Not unlike the stuff that they eat after they get out of the Matrix. That's kind of the state of content. We had a coworker, previous coworker, that said, well, it's just content, bro.
Right.
And that statement has rung with me ever since he said it. And I look at how content is just kind of becoming very homogenized and very much the same, where there's no difference between movies and television anymore. And I've said every time we've done movie reviews that I will always advocate for theatrical exhibition, but maybe that's going away, or they run Warner Brothers as like a boutique label, kind of similar to what Disney has been doing with 20th Century Studios. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and
sure.
I get the feeling that this isn't the last conversation we'll have with it.
No, definitely not. But here's the point I made earlier when we were discussing this. Think about the Superman sequel. Superman, the latest one, did not make as much at the box office as they predicted. A lot of it is people go, I'll just wait for streaming. That's a huge factor in this. Also, it's because of people on our side bashing it as un-American and woke, which it wasn't. But now, if movies aren't clearing the $1 billion, is it worth spending all that money to make these movies? And does that mean you just get Lois and Clark style, Smallville style, superhero movies from now on, in which case are we seeing the end of the blockbuster era? And I don't mean the video rental company. I mean the movie theater experience. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Seattle's office market is completely collapsing, and you have a whole bunch of politicians making excuses for what's happening, but we know what's really causing it. We'll tell you what's happening when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
570 KVI, America's first conservative talk station. It's time for a common sense current in a sea of insanity.
Are you ready?
This is the Ari Hoffman Show.
Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Representative Chris Corey is going to tell us if that income tax has any chance of passing in the Washington State Legislature. But before we get to any of that, this is the season when I'm getting tons of press releases sent out by random survey companies. Who sells the best Christmas present? What city is the happiest city? I got the most garbage one the other day, Mike. Apparently, we're one of the happiest cities in the country, the least stressed cities in the country. I said, I want to know what you're basing this on. And you know how I know this is a BS thing? I replied to that one. Mike, you get the same emails I do. You get this nonsense. So I got the one, Seattle's the least stressed city. And I just replied back. I said, can you show me the data? That's all I asked for. Show your work. Right? I'm the math teacher from third grade. Show your work. They haven't gotten back to me. Usually these guys can't get back to us fast enough. Normally it's, we have expert Jim Bob, and Jim Bob's going to come on the show and tell you all about this. No Jim Bob. None of that at all. So I saw this one here. Seattle ranks as the 10th most congested city for traffic in the U.S. Now, a lot of you are probably sitting there going, yep, they're right. Traffic is terrible. Traffic is really, really bad here in Seattle. Mike, I know you and I don't have normal schedules like other people do. I mean, I'm driving in around 11 o'clock every day. I'm leaving around 6:30. I'm driving around then. I kind of miss most of the rush hour. But it feels to me like I'm not seeing the rushes I used to see around these times of days. It seems like it has dramatically gone down, and it's not because it's December. I'd say it's the past 6 or 7 weeks it's dramatically gone down. And I factor that in to the report we did the other day, which say that a taxpayer is moving out of Seattle every 30 minutes, and moving out of Washington State every 30 minutes. So I'm wondering, are they basing this on old information from last year, let's say? Is it the taxes? You're finally seeing them happen on the roads? I don't feel as much congestion as I used to when I'm driving. I really, really don't. In fact, I see it worse on the weekends with all the ridiculous construction they're doing than I do during the week. And I'm really trying to figure out what's going on. Now, granted, on the city streets, they're a nightmare. City streets, absolute nightmare because of the bike lanes and the speed bumps and all that. My commute time has gone from 20 minutes to 40 minutes to get here because of all that. It is backed up so many places, and then we're diverting onto streets that are non-arterials and zipping along. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It's like the Seattle Department of Transportation has done everything they possibly can to make your commute worse. But then you have a survey like this, and I'm just not seeing it. Now, maybe some of you are yelling at me like, oh, already try to drive to Tacoma and you'll see what's going on. But I'm not seeing it. I'm just not. Now, this is a story I've been hinting at all week because it's really bothering me. Representative Rick Larson and Representative Burgess Owens introduced the Transportation Assistance for Olympic and World Cup Cities Act. The proposal would authorize $50 million annually to help cities upgrade transportation infrastructure in preparation for major international sporting events. Larson, our very own congressman from here in Washington, said strong federal support is key to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. 6 matches are scheduled at Seattle's Lumen Field between June 11th and July 19th. The city is expected to draw around 750,000 visitors for matches and associated events. Quote, the World Cup needs world-class infrastructure to ensure teams and their fans can safely travel to and from every game. He said, noting that host cities, such as Seattle, could use the money to improve roads, transit routes, and sidewalks ahead of the tournament. Stop. Full stop right there. Okay. Aren't we in the middle of a whole bunch of money being spent on Revive I-5? Also, here's something else. Didn't they tell us they needed to tax us, raise our gas taxes again this year, even after the insane Climate Commitment Act, which is one of the things that pumped our gas prices up to the third highest in the U.S., and at one point this year, they were the highest in the U.S. So what do you need the federal money for? I thought they had the money to use on the roads. What do you need the federal money for? My guess is Rick Larson spoke to his buddies like Bob Ferguson who go, dude, we're losing people. We're losing tax revenue. People aren't paying it. We need the money. Can you help us out from the feds and claim it's part of the World Cup? I don't think this thing should be done at all. You know why? He said, let me go back to what he said here. The World Cup needs world-class infrastructure to ensure teams and their fans can safely travel to and from every game. Are you going to use any of that money to sweep out the homeless encampments? Any of it at all? You know, Zoran Mamdani made an announcement in New York today. You know what his big announcement was? We're not sweeping homeless encampments anymore. Good. You just told every homeless, drug addict, mental ill person that they can say on the streets as much as they want, destroy whatever businesses they want. R.I.P. New York, it's been fun. You know who's going to come out with this announcement next? Just wait, Mike. You know who it's going to be. Katie Wilson. She's going to come out with this big announcement. Oh, I want some national attention too. So I'm going to make a dumb announcement to be like my new buddy Zoran. I want Zoran to retweet me. So I'm going to come out with something stupid like that. Just watch. Just watch. Guaranteed that's what's going to happen. I guarantee it. So what happens? You're spending all this federal money now. And you know what? The feds may actually go for it because they're all obsessed with the World Cup. President Trump had that big event at the Kennedy Center today, got that nice award, wants to put on a good show. Well, if you're putting on a good show, shouldn't Seattle, by winning the World Cup, do some investment in this? We know Seattle can do a good job when it wants to do a good job, but I'm tired of the city getting cleaned up only for world-class events because the rest of us have to live here the rest of the year. It got cleaned up for Taylor Swift, became a mess afterwards, until it became time for the All-Star game. Then it got cleaned up again. I'm tired of this cycle. Gavin Newsom could clean up San Francisco so that they could have San Francisco, they could have it right away, ready to go. As soon as they had the, whatchamacallit, when Xi Jinping came to town, they were able to clean up San Francisco, make it look like a communist dictatorship out there. Is that what we're going to see happen here? This is exceptionally frustrating to me. Exceptionally frustrating. So, what's really bothering me about this even more is that they're asking for federal money for it. And I don't think we should be spending it at all. Let me know if you think we should be spending the money. Text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. They're also using these numbers of the amount of people coming to town saying this is why we need to increase the light rail. Hey, guys, I just want to remind everybody, the monorail is a glorified tourist attraction left over from the World's Fair. That's what it is. It's not useful for commuting unless you're going to a game and they keep the hours operating a little longer. Mike and I learned that the hard way just a few weeks ago when we went to the Seahawks game. We're like, sure, we'll take the monorail back to the studio where we left our cars. Nope. No such luck. Didn't know that sucker stops operating pretty early at night. It's leftover. It's a relic of the World's Fair. It only goes to two places, Seattle Center and Westlake Center. That's it. I know it was meant to be used for more, but that never really happened. That's it. It's a glorified tourist attraction. So we're going to expand the light rail, expand the light rail, expand the light rail. It's going to be like the episode of The Simpsons with the monorail, where they go visit the city that had the monorail. It's just kind of hanging there after the disaster. And you wonder, where'd all the people go? If people are continuing to move out of here and the roads are clearing up, and the big conversation was, oh, light rail is going to take all this pressure off the roads. Then what do you need the money for the roads for? Wait, what do you need the money for the light rail for if there's not as many people coming anyway? These guys are addicted to spending. That's what's going on. And they're not seeing the writing on the wall. Meta has abandoned new sites in Bellevue. Meta has said they are not expanding. I was actually reading this from the Downtown Bellevue blog. And Downtown Bellevue blog was doing a great job saying, well, first they took this block, then they took that block, then they took this block, and these are the blocks they were planning on expanding to, but now none of that's going to be happening. Meta has walked away from future growth plans in Bellevue's Spring District, surrendering its rights to 5 development sites in the mixed-use neighborhood. Do you know what that means? Mixed-use real estate are buildings where you have housing on top, you have apartments on top, and you have retail down below. When you surrender 5 development sites, that's 5 blocks. 5 blocks of buildings that now you're not going to have people living on. You're not going to have stores there anymore. Do you think that what this means is they see the writing on the wall with the taxes, especially with Sean Scott's announcement that they want to tax everything that moves under the sun? And they just said, nope, we're out. We are out. King County filings from late October show Meta relinquished its development rights to blocks 2, 3, 4A, 5B, and 15 parcels that have been reserved for potential office expansion in the 36-acre Spring District. With those rights returned, developer Wright Runstad & Co. is now weighing whether to pivot the sites from office growth to apartment construction, according to the Puget Sound Business Journal. Meta's retreat underscores a broader shift. Despite leasing roughly 1.4 million square feet in the Spring District, the company is reportedly using only about half of that space. Giving up future building options signals that Meta doesn't expect to need more office capacity in Bellevue anytime soon. Time out. Mike, we need to break this down for a second. If Meta's not hiring people here, that means where are they hiring people? Because they're not hiring them here. A company needs to grow. You can't keep blaming it on AI, which, by the way, that's what Sean Scott's going to do. He's going to keep blaming it on AI. It's not because of AI. They're hiring other places. They're not hiring here. I had this debate with a coworker today. We're talking about how there's literally zero office construction in Seattle, 33% of offices, a 33% office vacancy rate. I saw this coming years ago. So in my other life, I do real estate stuff, and I saw this happening during COVID. I said, if people can remote work, all these techies are going to leave, and they're not going to need the office space anymore. Seattle's in for a rude awakening down the road. Well, what did we see? I was half right, I was half wrong. A lot of the tech people left. They left because of taxes. They left because if you're getting paid a Seattle salary and you can work anywhere you want, why would you stay here in this very expensive city? You could pocket a lot of that money and not have these high costs of living. But then something else happened. Businesses realized we're not as productive as we used to be because everybody is at home watching Netflix when they're supposed to be working, or the kids are running in and out, or the wife needs them to take out the garbage, or whatever the case may be. They are not as productive as they used to be. So we want you back at work. The thing was, well, it's a 3-day work week, work from actual in person, and 2 days work from home. Then it was 4 days. Then it's everybody get your butts back to work. Nothing's working right around here. Now, we saw when they ordered everybody back to work that all of a sudden traffic got worse again. We were complaining about it on the regular here all the time about how much worse traffic was getting. But then, as we were just talking about earlier, it's been getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Now, Seattle rents for office space are plunging faster than anywhere else in the country. They're not plunging in Texas. They're not plunging in Florida. Why is it they're only plunging in the blue cities and the blue states? According to a new CoStar analysis, Seattle leads the country in falling office rents with vacancies hitting record highs. Experts warn the slump could reshape Seattle's commercial real estate, cutting into property values and city tax revenues while raising questions about the future of downtown. That's exactly right. By the way, you know how the Seattle Times loves to beat up on Martin Seelig for him not doing well with all the office buildings he has downtown? You guys are not seeing the forest for the trees. If this is affecting Martin Seelig, the largest landowner in downtown Seattle, what does that mean for downtown Seattle? You guys are all happy because you don't like Martin Seelig because he supports Trump and gives money to the Trump campaign. But you guys aren't realizing what that means for Seattle. Hey, dum-dums at the Seattle Times. If these companies leave, you don't have anybody funding your education lab or your Project Homeless anymore, and you don't have anybody taking out ads in your stupid local newspaper. Do you not get what's happening? Every time you demonize him, you are forgetting that what that means is your downtown is having real problems. I remember when I first moved here in 2024, there were construction cranes as far as the eye could see. They were everywhere. Then we started seeing less of them and less of them. Then you start seeing more and more in Bellevue. From my house, you could see Bellevue and sort of downtown Seattle. And for a while there, you could see an equal number until you just started seeing them in Bellevue and not seeing them here. And now you're actually seeing less and less in Bellevue because they're not building anymore. People would come to town and be like, wow, look at all the construction. Look at all the growth. Have you been to South Lake Union recently? Mike, have you been down there recently? Have you had any reason to go there? No reason to go there. It's a ghost town. So for those of you who aren't from Seattle, South Lake Union was kind of a meh area. All right, there's Lake Union, which is kind of nice, but Amazon came in and developed the whole area. Beautiful streets, new intersections, beautiful office buildings. Nobody's working down there anymore. Nobody's working down there. Traffic ain't as bad as it used to be. I know the people who go on Mercer are like, Hoffman, what the hell are you talking about? Guys, I drive over there too. Take the 99 or whatever it is. I know you don't want to pay the toll and you want to go to I-5 instead. But the traffic's nowhere near as bad as it used to be. It used to be I couldn't find parking down there when I used to go for haircuts in that area. That's not a problem at all anymore. Not a problem at all. South Lake Union has become a ghost town, which is why so many stores aren't there anymore, because the techies aren't there anymore for them to have customers for. That's how bad it's getting. We have one of the worst office market rates in the U.S. Why would anybody build anything when you're sitting on 30% vacancy? People like Sean Scott want to tax us more? Are you out of your minds? Do you know how many more companies are going to leave? Here's something else. Look at the last normal people vote here in Seattle. I would say that was in 2021. When you got a Bruce Harrell, you got an Ann Davidson, you got the more normal people on the Seattle City Council, but it was still a bunch of lefties. I always said that. But at least they didn't pick the rabid socialists in 2021. You think a company is going to say, well, we're going to move back to Seattle hoping this time they're actually serious about fixing everything? No, because it took one election cycle for Seattle to go, bring back the socialism. Let's do it. You think they're going to invest all that money in infrastructure? You think they're going to do it? By the way, I have a very serious question about President Trump and the CAFE standards and what he's doing with the cars. Look, the other day, we were thrilled, absolutely thrilled, when President Trump said he's getting rid of all these ridiculous CAFE standards. Really. We were thrilled about that. Basically, it's all these ridiculous carbon standards on cars and saying that you have to, the Biden administration, which was saying they have to get this many miles per gallon. There's so many things wrong with that. Do you know that a lot of car companies are losing money on the EVs that they're making? But they have to make a certain number of vehicles that are getting X amount of miles per gallon, so they had to lose the money on those so they could sell and make money on the other cars. That's stupid. People will buy the cars they want to buy. Today, President Trump announced they're going to do mini trucks. I don't know if you've ever traveled internationally. Oh, wait, hang on. Let's do this. For Your Eyes Only, the James Bond movie. You know the little mini yellow car that Roger Moore is driving all over the place? You travel abroad, you travel to Europe, those things are everywhere. You travel to Israel, those things are everywhere because these places were not built to accommodate cars. So they have smaller cars. Well, now imagine trucks that are that small, right? They're not hauling huge loads, but they're for workmen. You don't need the big trucks like we have here in America. So they have these small guys. Now they're going to start selling them here, which is great because they're going to be more affordable for people. That's good news. Beforehand, they didn't get the right gas mileage. That's all it was, so you couldn't sell those suckers here. This is great news. But all these companies making this investment in America, I'm thrilled about it, don't get me wrong, but you're converting over entire lines from EV to gas-powered, back to EV, back to gas-powered. How long until companies just say it's not worth investing in America anymore because what if a Democrat gets elected? Let's throw this out for a second. What if the Democrats win the House in 2026 and then win the White House in 2028? Whoever that president is going to come in and by executive order undo everything Trump did. How many of these companies are going to say, you know what, we're tired of playing this game? We're tired of playing this game. Joe Biden didn't even know what he was signing. President Trump had this good line the other day about Joe Biden when he was talking about the CAFE standards.
The man operating the auto pen, and I'm sure there are more than one because I think some of the people can operate it themselves. Some of the high-level people operate it themselves. They would just go in and sign his name with an auto pen onto very important documents, not only pardons, but policy, maybe CAFE standards, okay, as an example. Who signed CAFE? If you ask Biden what's a CAFE standard, he would have absolutely no idea. He'd say, where is the CAFE located? The guy didn't know anything.
Trump's not wrong on that. But how much longer are American companies going to play this game? I know we're seeing a big boom right now. But you do realize that if Democrats win the next couple elections, these companies are going to do what they did when Biden got elected. Ship that production out of the country and then not come back. Seattle's already at that place. Amazon rolled their dice. They tried to fix this in 2019. They tried to fix this in 2020, and there was serious backlash against them in the entire city. And they said, that's it. Vamoose, we're out of here. Now, what if they leave the state? What if Boeing leaves the state? What if other companies leave the state? Then you're in massive, massive trouble because they ain't coming back. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, true crime. Holy cow. They keep telling us crime is down around here. Not so fast, my friends. We'll tell you what's actually going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. I saw the other day that Tamer Abu Zaid had his initial hearing before the King County Council. And what this is when they're going to renew somebody for a term of an appointed position, they bring you in and say, hey, what'd you do well? What'd you do badly? What'd you not do great? The thing was about an hour long. Somebody, our friend Transit Joe, sent me the video of it. Watch the whole hour of the thing. Tamer Abu Zaid is a guy who's in charge of oversight of law enforcement in King County. This is a guy whose entire social media is filled with how much he hates cops, filled with how much he hates officers, how much he hates Jews, how much he hates white people, how much he hates Christians. This guy never should have gotten the job in the first place. But now he definitely shouldn't be renewed for the job. The questions they asked him from King County were pathetic. Absolutely. I kept waiting for somebody to go, hey, dude, what about your social media? Instead, they asked one time about one post from the actual official Office of Law Enforcement Oversight. They asked one time, hey, do you think you really should have posted that? Nothing about the anti-Semitism, nothing about the racism, nothing about the anti-law enforcement, nothing at all. It's pathetic. Then again, who's sitting in the room? Teresa Mosqueda. Teresa Mosqueda, the one who marched with Antifa against her own police department. We have file after file after file, an entire investigation was done on this guy. They said they should change the rules of ethics of how they operate in that office. They should change the law about how this office operates because this guy's behavior was so abysmal. By the way, noticed also Homeboy don't look so good. Looks like he's been packing on the pounds a little bit. I'll just say he's taking up a lot of space in that chair than the last time we saw him in person. I mean, holy cow. But this is a guy who celebrated the October 7th massacre on social media. This is a guy who police officers say, how can we possibly have a fair hearing in front of an oversight committee when this guy's running it who says he hates cops? Where's the King County Council? Where's the King County Council to say one word on this guy? Just one. So it got moved forward with no recommendation from the council. I guess that's something. Normally you say, okay, the council votes to recommend we go with this guy. I think I can see what's actually happening here. They moved into executive session. Do you know what executive session is? It's when they go behind the scenes and say, you know what, we're going to take a break for a few minutes and talk amongst ourselves. I wonder if those discussions were had amongst themselves and nobody wanted to be on the hook for actually recommending this guy. Well, guess what? There's going to be a vote coming up there's going to be a vote coming up about, I think it's in January, about whether or not to reappoint this guy. And then you all go on record whether or not you're standing with everything he said, because it's been well documented in multiple media outlets, not just me, but my competitors, nationally, internationally. Everybody knows about this guy. And you're going to put your stamp of approval? This is the guy who's overseeing law enforcement. Do you think that's going to help you recruit more police officers? Just asking for a friend. You think that's going to help you recruit more police officers, especially when so many people are moving out of here? We're at the lowest amount of police officers we've had since 1991, and our city's growing exponentially. Well, I know what you're going to say. Well, Ari, it's no big deal. Everybody's leaving anyway. Didn't you just talk about that in your last segment? Yeah, at one point. We'll be back to the population we had in the 1990s. Yeah, and you go to South Lake Union, you'll be like Will Smith and I Am Legend. You could just drive around there hunting deer because none of the tech workers are there anymore. But you got your whole city to yourself. Hey, Mike, that might be fun for drag racing. I didn't think about the fun we could be having with this. It's like when I taught my son how to drive, and we were driving around downtown Seattle during the pandemic when nobody was out there. Best driving practice he ever could have gotten. But Katie Wilson will likely follow the model of Zoran Mamdani, as I mentioned earlier, where now he has pledged to stop all homeless encampment sweeps. If Katie Wilson does the exact same thing, that means cops are going to be dealing with this stuff more often. Think about Ballard Commons during the pandemic. For those of you who don't know about Ballard Commons, it's a beautiful park. They put tons of money into it, invested all money in the splash park, and then promptly let the homeless drug addicts move into it. And on the regular, they were moving homeless bodies out of the encampment because they had overdosed and other awful things were happening in that encampment. And it's surrounded by apartment buildings. Surrounded by apartment buildings. So this was happening in the middle of a residential neighborhood in a place where kids were supposed to play. If Katie Wilson makes the same pledge, in fact, they're already banking on her making the same pledge. I wonder if this was pre-scheduled before the election. According to Como News, a growing homeless encampment is scheduled to be cleared out today at Seattle's Mount Baker neighborhood, and people throughout the city are wondering how Mayor-elect Katie Wilson will approach the crisis once she takes office in January. The encampment, scheduled for removal, is along 26th Avenue South between South Holgate and South Plum Streets. Roughly 15 tents and structures are set up along the edge of a property that houses the American Red Cross facility. I wonder how many times they've been broken into. Oh, yeah, here's something fun. You know, a lot of the blood donation facilities, you don't go there to donate blood. They're the ones who store the equipment to donate blood. They get broken into all the time because these addicts are just looking for needles. They hired their own private security. Seen it myself. Neighbors say there is regular drug use at the encampment, what appears to be drug dealing. Others said various items, including bicycles and lawn furniture, have been stolen from people's homes and are sometimes later seen at the encampment. People also have their doubts about the effectiveness of clearing away these encampments. Past efforts to remove people living on the streets have resulted in the same tent showing up a block or two down the road. Como News has reached out to Mayor-elect Wilson to understand how she will approach the crisis. Her spokesperson said she was not immediately available, but is committed to deep outreach and broad buy-in of viewpoints from throughout the community. That means they're not going to do anything about it. Spokesperson also said the mayor-elect will approach the homeless crisis seriously as a crisis. During her campaign, Wilson criticized Bruce Harrell for his efforts to actively remove encampments in city parks or when they blocked public spaces. In fact, she said she had no problem whatsoever if they want to set up inside the public parks. Wilson called Harrell's sweep strategy a cosmetic fix that doesn't solve the issue. Well, because the problem was Bruce Harrell was just bumping them from one place to another. So you don't even want to do that. You just want to say, leave them where they are. Don't move them at all. Just leave them where they are. That's going to be great. You think overdoses are going to go up around here? You think homeless deaths are going to go up around here? I guarantee you they will, with all these people sleeping out in the elements. And you know what else? You're going to attract more people from out of town because they just go where they don't get hassled. They go where they can get free stuff from the city. So Katie Wilson's plan is not just to bump them around, just leave them where they are. No. She's going to say words, big words like wraparound services, right? But that doesn't mean anything if there's no accountability. Even the Seattle Times, even Danny Westneat was having the articles about how they built all this low-income housing and how they built and bought all these hotels to use as homeless shelters, and nobody's in them. They're sitting there empty. Bruce Harrell's problem was that moving them around didn't accomplish anything, and that's the same thing he did on the Seattle City Council. Katie Wilson's going to say, just leave them there. They'll be fine. What's that going to do? Spike crime. Well, I guess Antifa will have more time to do what it wants to do because they won't have to consistently be setting up new homeless encampments. Oh, yeah, by the way, these mutual aid groups, that's code for Antifa. Antifa's the ones who, you notice whenever they clear a homeless encampment, there's a few tents set up a couple blocks away. That's the Antifa types doing that. Well, one of them may not be doing that because now one of them is facing big boy charges. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I don't know how this one identifies. According to Katie Daviscourt over at the Post Millennial, a non-binary leftist activist pleaded guilty on Wednesday to felony conspiracy charges related to a violent, organized anti-U.S. immigration and customs enforcement demonstration outside a Department of Homeland Security building in Spokane, Washington in June. Mike, you remember this stupidity? We were covering it in real time as it was happening. These lunatics were marching on the ICE facility out in Spokane. They were flattening tires. They were blocking vehicles. Mickey Pike Hatfield, 34, pleaded guilty to conspiracy to impede or injure officers in exchange for an 18-month deferred sentence. The defendant's assault on federal officer charge was dropped as part of a plea agreement. The deferred sentence allows Hatfield to swap the felony charge for a misdemeanor as long as he complies with a set of conditions. However, the defendant faces 6 years in federal prison if he fails to do so. Personally, I think you should have thrown the book at this guy. Hatfield, who uses they-them pronouns, was among a group of 9 individuals who conspired to assault and impede federal officers during a June 11th anti-ICE protest outside the Homeland Security office in Spokane. The group physically blocked a bus being used to transport illegal aliens to the ICE detention facility in Tacoma. They were releasing air from its tires, painting the glass, rendering it unsafe to drive, according to court documents. Do they at least have to pay for the thing? Like this suspended sentence business, that doesn't work for me. Despite dispersal orders being given, the group continued to engage in unlawful acts. When federal officers attempted to leave the building through a secure parking lot on the south end of the property, Hatfield and his co-conspirators blocked the driveway and or pushed officers attempting to remove them from the property. Hatfield and the group placed trash cans, sand or cement bags, benches, signs, and other objects in front of doors and exits to block the exit of federal officers and detainees from the federal facility. Spokane police arrived on scene to assist and deployed crowd control measures, including inert smoke, pepper balls at the feet of those refusing to leave. According to the indictment, Hatfield picked up one of the deployed incendiary devices and threw it in the direction of Spokane police and Spokane non-county sheriff's deputies. I think they should have made an example out of this guy. I really do. This was the one where Spokane City Council president was involved in this mess. I'm sorry, former Spokane City Council president. I think they should have made an example about all these guys. Let us know if you think they should have too. Give us a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Representative Chris Corey is going to tell us whether or not Sean Scott's insane income tax and payroll tax ideas will actually get through the legislature. We'll talk about that plus so much more when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI.